getting set up here. I'm late. That's not very professional. Alright, we'll get it on the apron, that way we'll feel a little bit more professional about being late. You know, it just reminds me of the shame. And then I had one cook tell me, he's like, what's 15 minutes? You know, when you're on the line for 5 hours, what's 15 minutes? It's 15 minutes. At the end of the day, we're gonna roll up our sleeves, give our hands a good wash. We got 2 recipes we're working with. I'm gonna... I haven't been very successful on biscuits before, but they don't require a mixer per se. So I'd really like to get better at making them. And you, the viewer, I always want to let you guys, to encourage you to cooking more food in the kitchen. So, and there will be failure. That's part of the learning. Failure is a great teacher. I have failed a couple times at these biscuits. But I don't think we're using any alternative flour today. I think we're actually going to be able to follow the recipe, which is very important with baking. Baking is much more of a science. And even if you follow a baking recipe to a T, if you're up in the mountains, you still have some experimenting that you'll have to take care of. I'm just boiling some water to take care of some tea to give me a little bit more of that oomph, that go juice. That way I don't slump on you halfway through. So we got clean mittens. And let's see, so usually I have BAM right up here in the corner. I usually have the little recipes. These are pretty simple though. This is a biscuit recipe, adding minced onion and cheese. And then the soup that we're making has 2 ingredients, the onion and the potatoes. And 2 cups of water. There we go. I was like, there's a liquid in there somewhere. I was like, I don't remember seeing. That's always, I've been looking at different recipe books, and I haven't seen anyone that like to include water on the ingredients list. They like to sneak that one into the instructions side. So always read your recipes all the way through. We are going to make sure that there's nothing in our oven, and we have a bit of a climb to do. This isn't 350, we're going all the way up to 425 degrees. So we're going to go ahead and start that as early as possible, just to make sure that we have a nice, evenly hot oven that's not just 45 degrees off in the corner or something like that. Hola! Thank you for dropping by on the show. We're just starting to get out our ingredients. Making a little bit of tea. We got an onion soup and biscuits that we're going to be making today. And I was lamenting about how I still have not got my biscuit game down. But we're talking about how we're trying to get people making good food. They just charge way too much for it in the restaurants, way too much. When you see how cheap this stuff is to make, you guys, and then how well you can make it, the restaurants think that they're in trouble now. They're going to be even more trouble once more people really understand, especially you're not scared of the microwave. The microwave can give you some good stuff really quick. Saves you money on your electric bill or your gas bill. And then I was bad. I was supposed to have this planned out. So these potatoes are about a week old. We used these in our recipe last week, and you can see this is about what a week old potato looks like. So make sure when you're getting them in the store that you don't want to like mass stock them unless you have a cellar that you can put them in where they're like totally dark, maybe even still in the dirt. Then you can keep a potato for a long time. But once they're up out of the ground, you need to use them. Try to only buy them by the week for what you're going to use in the week. And sometimes that might not be a bag of potatoes, that might just be a single potato. And then a half. Let's see. So what I do is I look at, that looks like a 3-pound bag of onions. It actually doesn't say how many pounds this one is. Something that I'm still trying to figure out is I've been hearing in the, I don't want to call it the rumor mill, but it's basically the rumor mill. You're not supposed to store your potatoes and your onions together. I've never heard of such a thing before. It's one of those things that kind of ghosted up on the internet and then disappeared again. So I'm getting all the ingredients. Don't you fret, y'all. I'll be able to get you filled in on exactly what the ingredients are. Like I said, usually I have a little ingredients list here, but it's just so darn simple that let me see if I can get it popped in just for the biscuits in a moment. When we're waiting on something, I should be able to actually bring in the production value that we're all looking for. But right now, just getting my flour and baking soda. Leaving my butter in the fridge for this recipe because you don't want your butter to melt when you're making these biscuits. Onions so messy. Alright. Hoop-de-doo. I like getting it. This is kind of, since I don't have it so planned out with on the screen here, maybe this will be a little bit more of a natural, like, hey, this is just how I set up and I cook at home, which is what I like to keep the show like. I don't want this to be like, oh, here's how you become how you act like a professional cook in the home kitchen. I'm like, no, here's how you stay sane, feeding yourself every day without going mad. Don't turn into an angry cook. I don't recommend it. It's a lot of cigarettes and a lot of alcohol. Let's see. Egg and a cup of milk. And then with this milk, for a vegetarian cooking channel, and I know a lot of people might not be the biggest milk drinkers, so just know that if you need some milk and you're really not going to drink, just go smaller on your size. Don't think that you necessarily have to get a whole gallon. This is plenty of milk. The milkman used to deliver this stuff. 2 jugs, 2 glass jugs. There are still places where you can still do that today. I tried when I was younger I was really bad about rinsing out the bottles, which I don't, now looking back on that, I'm not sure why rinsing out the milk bottle was so hard. Let's see. Happy Friday, everybody. We made it to another weekend. World's not blown up yet. Got some good cooking. I wasn't sure. I was really happy, as I always am, with the recipes, about finding this creamy onion soup. Well, I was thinking about what to serve with it, and I almost went with the croissants. Almost. But then I was like, nah, we're going to do this the right way. And then also, I want to take care of this finally. Now, if you folks don't know this, we will pull this out and clear off the plate. I just have a little junkiness, some pasta that made it in there. And that will help keep the kitchen smelling nice. And then you just plug it back into the stove. Just don't have your burner turned on when you're doing that, and you'll be all set. Well, I guess we're a few minutes into the show, and I should have done a sound check by this point. How not, you with me? And we're working out some cookbooks today. I've been kind of reviewing the wording of the cookbooks, and my favorite has still been this Good Housekeeping cookbook. It's one of those ones that's been published for over 100 years. You can find it, and I'm not saying go buy, the $30 new book up on the Amazons. I'm saying go to your thrift store and find one of these books for $1 or for 50 cents, and you will save yourself a lot of search time on the web, save yourself a lot of advertisement. And also, it's really hard when you have no idea, what do I want to eat today? I have no idea, but I have to search, I have to look and think of something that I have to eat. You have a cookbook and it's like a reverse search. It's much better. You just look and like, oh, look at all these delicious things. All of these delicious things I could make. And now that I've told that story, I really in particular want to make sure that you can hear this voice. And we just, luckily I haven't been droning on long enough. The oven just preheated, so how could it be? How bad could it be? Let's see. Hopefully we don't get much of an echo. Let's see. Okay, good. Good. My voice is coming in. We have the coffee going. Oh, excuse me, the tea. How rude of me, the tea. And I'm just getting all my burners set. That way I am not distracted with grabbing things. I can just go right in and explain what we are working with and how we're working with it. All right, and the only other thing I want to get this has seen some miles. That's okay. Still love, much love. Okay, we'll just go ahead. We'll put that over here for now. Yeah. Yeah, that's where we'll put that stuff, right there. So I'm going to kind of be going back and forth on the recipes. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit more of a looser show where you just see like how I am going from I found the recipe I want in the book and I am going to go and cook it. This is a live show. So, just for a favor to the audience though, I will read out the entire directions real quick. So the creamy onion soup. We're working with 1.5 pounds of potatoes, 1.5 pounds of onions, and 2 tablespoons of butter. There's an optional 3 to 4 tablespoons of light cream and salt and ground pepper. The instructions. Peel and dice the potatoes and put them into a saucepan with 2 cups of water. Bring to the boil, then cover and simmer for 15 to 20 minutes until very tender. Meanwhile, peel the onions and slice them into half circles. Melt the butter in another saucepan and put in the onions. Cover and cook over a gentle heat until they are tender. This will take about 15 minutes. And they'll need stirring from time to time to prevent sticking. Step 3. When the potatoes are done, either mash them very thoroughly in the water or whiz them to puree in a food processor, then return to the pan. Or smash in the pan. Tip the onions and their liquids into the potato puree and add the cream if you're using this. Thin the soup with a little bit more water, reheat gently, then season with salt, pepper, and some nutmeg, freshly grated nutmeg. Biscuits recipe. Now we're going to be working with 2.5 cups all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon double-acting baking powder, a ½ teaspoon of salt, a ½ cup butter or margarine, 8 ounces of shredded cheddar cheese, that's 2 cups, a ½ cup minced onions, 1 egg, and 1 cup of milk. About 40 minutes before serving, preheat the oven to 425 degrees. Grease a large cookie sheet. In a large bowl with fork, mix flour, baking powder, and salt with a pastry blender or 2 knives using scissor fashion. Cut in butter or margarine until mixture resembles coarse crumbles. Stir in cheese and onions. In small bowl with fork, beat egg and milk until well mixed. Stir into flour mixture just until the flour is moistened. Onto cookie sheet, drop heaping tablespoons of dough about 1 inch apart. Bake 15 to 20 minutes until biscuits are golden. Makes about 18 biscuits. And these is what we're working with. Now, after reading those instructions, I know how if I want to do this as quickly as possible, the first things that I need to get started are my potatoes, because that requires water boiling, and then also my onions. So my potatoes are going to be going here, onions are going to be going here. A little bit of burning action going on. Okay. So, I'm going to go ahead and get my 2 cups of water real quick. And I'll go ahead. And this is something that I've been thinking about in the show, about maybe that I will have all my measurements taken care of beforehand. Need 2.5 cups. I was wondering why I was getting a bit of smoke here. It's because it's getting baked at 425. And you know what? I bet, since I don't normally crank up the oven that high, I bet before I get too busy, I'll just make sure that this isn't smoking too bad. And we did have a bit of smoke. But that's not a worry, we were prepared for it. Oop, that's not what I want. what I'm doing here is that I'm making a fan with a towel. Instead of just doing this. This will actually get some air movement. Ah, there it is. So, I'd rather have had that happen right then in the moment than when we were cooking a bunch of stuff. It looked like I didn't know I knew what I was doing. I might do it one more time. Oh, we got the window open now. Oh, I knew I was in for it when I was like, I'm going to try making the biscuits again. Oh, yeah. Just letting that. When we start peeling our potatoes, and we'll keep on letting. That probably got really loud and annoying for people for a moment. My apologies. That's how it gets in the kitchen sometimes. And then just no freaking out. So I was showing you that towel, that wind method, and how I got my fire alarm to shut up really quick is that I went and I did that motion in front of the fire alarm. And then this isn't a bad smoke. It's not like when you have oil on the stove top and you got oil everywhere and it smells like oil. This is just my oven being a bit fussy. From getting heated up to 425, something must have spilled in there that I didn't see. If I checked the oven a bit better, maybe I would have been able to see what it's being so upset about. We're just peeling our potatoes in the meantime. I'm starting to bring this up. This is only at a 2 right here just to start warming up the pan. This is I'm bringing up to a 5 because I want to boil these potatoes here. And I'll need a lid too. See, this is where I'm torn because I kind of want to have my measurements done and my prep done, but I also, just want to take the time, hang out, and show people just like this is, this is how you do it, like the whole stuff away. I don't really need it to be too clean. Like, I'll say in the kitchen all the time that clean as you go is a sign of a pro. But there are sometimes you just gotta get your hands dirty. That's why you wash them. So we're just peeling 1.5 pounds of potatoes. Got the recipe books out. Don't have to be fussing around with any phones. Don't need to be distracted with what's online with social media. Just working. on prepping our food, putting good thoughts and intentions into it, and our experiment of, can you taste the love in the food? You know, you know. All right, so and then we're going to give these potatoes a quick dice, and we'll get into the water, and then we'll bring the water to a boil. So potatoes, a little starchy reel. So nothing too fancy, because you are going to mash these. Smaller that you cut it, the more surface area the entire potato will have. Ha, that was not the way to cut it. That could have, just saying, kind of hurt. I was just messing around, seeing if I could get a nice dice. Always have kind of as flat a surface. It is round. If you need to, just cut a little, then you'll have a super flat surface. Then keep on working with it. And it's really just, you can let the knife do the work. Just need a real easy dice. We're working in a nice big pot here. That way I have plenty of room to mash. Okay. So it says bring to a boil and then cover. So we'll do it like that. And we're just going to make sure all our potatoes are actually broken up and evenly submerged in the water. And then we're going to work on our onions. We're going to go ahead and remove this exterior skin real quick. A lot of this has already fallen off on the bag of onions. It's already kind of peeled itself away. Okay, and then when I get to this point, what I do, I go ahead and also, what you might find will save you a little time, is if you do the exact same step on each onion before moving forward. So I just cut off the tops on all the onions. Now I can put them all up. Now I'm going to half all the onions. Now I'm going to finish peeling the onion. And then also, if you see how there's some garbage that's on the top of my lid here, something that you could do is that if you know that you're going to be working with this and you don't want to make a mess, you can actually just remove this type of lid off entirely and just be working with your trash can, and that will save the mess right there. As long as it's getting into the trash can and not on the floor in a good place. And it's so papery right here. You just can't quite grab it. sometimes I'll sacrifice a layer of onion just so I can get that peeled off without wasting too much time. I'm going to get this is almost to a boil here, so I'm going to give it a quick stir. Keep on peeling my onions. Alright. And also, you know, I really like to say that I think home cooking is a lot more enjoyable than professional cooking. I'm lucky though, I don't have to cook for a bunch of picky kids or anything like that. Well, I did have to cook. Well, I didn't have to cook for them, but I did cook for a picky kid now that I'm thinking about it. For quite a while there. So I retract that previous statement. So this is getting nice. This is at the 2 still. That's getting nice and warm. We're going to be able to melt some butter there. And so now I halved it, and when it said half circles, what's meaning is half circle. I guess I don't know how I feel about it wording it that way. I guess that's a really simple way to let people know what you're talking about. And try to take your time on this step. Try to get it thin. You want thin and even on this. And the potatoes are coming to a boil, so we'll go ahead and cover them. And we're going to bring this down to a simmer. We're going to put that at a 2. And I'm going to go ahead, and since I love to talk so much, I am going to set a timer for 15 minutes. That way we'll make consistent results, things that you can produce back at home yourself. And I want, sometimes when I'm working with onions, after I've chopped a bunch, I'll get them started in my pot. With this though, I really want them all reducing together at the same time. Otherwise you'll start still getting, when they're this big, you can really run into the cooking being far too uneven. And these aren't massively big onions, they're just 1.5 pounds of onions here. 2 more to go. One more. Ear. Times dry für funk 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't remember if it's Zen. I know 11's elf, 12 is wolf. Oh, and then how do you say on Swansig, Ieren Swansig, dry on Swansig? I cannot remember much of that German. Alright, so did I need some butter for this? Yes. Okay, 2 tablespoons of butter. And we do. There's a new addition to the household. Woo, look at that. We already got some butter out there. Yeehaw. Okay. Two tablespoons of butter coming up. And for this, I want to use, so I can scrape a little well. We're going to put in 2 tablespoons of butter. And this is still on a 2 here, so it's nice and warm though. I don't want to burn my butter though, so I'm lifting it off the heat. I'm trying to work. I'm going to go ahead and start increasing the temperature. I just put it to a 3. Now that the butter is melted, and I believe what I'm looking for is right when it stops bubbling. Usually I mix a little bit of oil in with this as well. So it has stopped bubbling, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to make sure that this is nice and broken up. So we place it in here. On the wording of the recipe, we can't really critique the wording of the recipe since I don't have it up on the board. But one of the things that I did notice on this recipe is that it didn't give you any kind of indication on how big of a saucepans to use. Kind of just had to know, like, okay, I can probably do 1.5 pounds of onion in this. I might have gone a little bit too heavy on the onion, so I'm gonna put those bits over to the side. I'll take about yay much more. Oh, well, I must have lost my train of thought earlier. What I was going to say is that this is way better than cooking in a professional kitchen because I got the sink right there. I can keep my hands clean. I don't have anyone yelling at me. And then we're going to mix in the onions with the butter here. And you can see how I was kind of pouring over here. That's one of the reasons why I went ahead and stopped adding the onions. Because there's no point if I can't cook it. I can't imagine the recipe was meaning more onions than what a medium, I believe this is 10-inch saucepan. I seriously doubt the recipe called for more onions than filled this saucepan, so that's why I was like, I must have overestimated my 1.5 pounds of onions. I'm just stirring this, trying to get it nice and coated. It's still really not that hot yet, so it's actually, you could like find a hot spot in here, but it's still like cool enough where you can kind of work it with your hands a little bit like I was doing just then. And it's just like getting a nice coating. And low heat is what we're looking for on here. And then we're going to let these reduce here in a moment. There we go. And that right there, we got some extra. And I think what I want to do is that I want to go ahead and just finish dicing these. my recipes in the home cooking, I'm really not that particular if I happen to come into a large piece of onion in my home cooking. What you just got to keep in mind is that the only thing that you really have to keep with your cutting sizes is how evenly you want it to cook. How long are you trying to cook it for? If you have all these big chunks of onion, it's going to take longer to cook. If you mince your garlic, like garlic's one of those things that I would say that it's like you don't necessarily need to cut it up that much, because then, you know, if you're kind of new to it and you go and you mince your garlic, you take all this time and you mince your garlic and then you put it in the pan and then you burn your garlic, I mean, because it's so small, because when it's so small it cooks very rapidly. So it would almost be more beneficial and more time effective to one, use a food processor, or two, to just have your garlic in larger, juicier chunks. But it kind of depends on, you know, what's going on with the recipe, of course. So that only has another 6 minutes. This is basically, we're going to just round down a minute. That's been cooking for about 5 minutes. When this timer goes off, we'll give this a stir and see how it's doing, if we need to adjust the temperature higher or lower. I'm going to, oh, you know what? This is perfect. We need this. Look at me working without working. I'm so lucky. We're going to use those for our biscuits right there. That's funny stuff. I'm going to go ahead and give my knife a little bit rinsed off. Yeah, am I even here? Am I checked in? Making onion biscuits and thinking like, oh, I just got too much onion here. I'm just going to dice this. I'm sure I need some diced onions for something. I'm sure real soon. Real soon I'll need them for something for diced. Who would have thought? 10 minutes later. Sorry folks, my monitor went to sleep. Let me get the chat back up. See all your wonderful faces here. 2.5 cups. Hey Amy and Bobby, I knew I was missing out on some cool conversation right here. It's going great. I've finally recovered from the Washington trip that I did. I trashed my sleep schedule. It just was non-existent. Just didn't freak out about it. Just, you know, took naps, just got back in. I'm feeling like I'm coming back into the rhythm of things now. All right, but with how my night's ultimately going, well, we'll see. I am about to try to make some biscuits. Okay, so I am getting out the 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. One. And make sure that you're leveling out the cup. There's 2. Now I'll need to sacrifice a 1/2 cup as well because it's 1 cup, 1/2 cup. See, that was like a little tidbit that you'd probably miss too. I just had this all, you know, ready to go, already measured out. We wouldn't be able to go over about like, yeah, spread it out. That way you have half cup, the 1 cup. All right, so we got about 2 minutes. We're gonna go back to focusing on these potatoes for a minute. So we need the onions to cook for about another 10 minutes. The onions are about 10 minutes behind still. So we're going to just reduce this even lower. And the trick is here is because we need to buy it about 10 minutes more time. And I see it still has water in here. And the trick is that we're not going to release the steam. We're going to turn the heat down to just half. It's under 1 right now. But since we're not taking off the lid, it's still going, and it's ceramic too, it's going to hold that heat really well. And it'll keep on cooking the potatoes down. And then in 2 minutes, 1 minute, we'll get that a stir. Alright, I can go ahead and get this messy flour put away. I really want to get a plastic tin for this. Just a big old bin. I think it'd be that's a lot better than something like this. I wouldn't recommend putting your flour in something like this just because of, unless you're always putting flour back into it. Like you had it cleaned one time and then you're always putting flour, but it just, on the inside, you have these crevices and such that if you are changing up what you're putting into it, it's just going to be a really big pain to clean the flour out compared to one of those plastic bins that I was just mentioning. Okay, so then I'm actually going to just double spoon this here real quick because now I can't really use my hand anymore. I'm just cooking down the onion. Want to give it a really, really good stir here because I don't want to take the lid back off. I want a really nice, get it mixed, get it off the edges. That way I can feel like nothing's going to be too brown. And this is at exactly the right temperature I want it to be at. It's slowly getting more translucent. It's not browning though. It's exactly where I want it. I'm getting it nice and even again, as flat as I can put it. And then these were 10 minutes behind. I'm going to go ahead and start my new timer for 10 minutes just so I can help keep myself track of everything. I'm going to keep on measuring out my biscuits. So half tablespoon of salt. Did I say half tablespoon? I bet I was supposed to say teaspoon. Yep, I was supposed to say teaspoon. And you guys all know how much I don't like measuring stuff, but that's how seriously I take the baking. The baking is science. So you cannot, I am not smart enough to change some baking. That's for sure. Okay. And then I need the 1 tablespoon of double acting baking powder, which I'm so happy to be able to use again. 1 tablespoon. Alright, and I got the salt. And then a half cup of butter. Just one stick of butter. Hey, look at that. So I can use this entire stick of butter, some Tillamook. Use this, and you don't want to melt it for your biscuits. It's supposed to be crummy consistency. And I'm going to go ahead and get my cup of milk, get our mixing bowl here. Ah, that's right, I keep them over here. Actually, you know what? This is why I really like some of the larger, because I don't have too many large mixing bowls. So a nice large measuring cup can do you good. Oh, but I forgot about what we were working with here on the oven. We're getting closer to that time. What I did is I took that other fan and I have it blowing out directly out the window so I have the kitchen, because this oven has been super fussy about going up to 425 and it's almost calmed down. I've had to air it out a couple of times. The fire alarm did go off once, and I showed a little trick of what you do to disperse the air. But now I got the fans coming up, so sorry about it being so noisy for a minute here. But we're about to put the biscuits into the oven, so I really need the oven to be ready at this point. Alright, I don't think it's going to smoke on me anymore. We'll finish up the recipe. We'll finish that stuff up. At the let's see if I can get this by the 4-minute mark here. Excuse me. So I need to get my 1 cup of milk here. And I did end up accidentally grabbing some 1% milk. I would have grabbed whole milk. I'm not necessarily shy. Also, again, for those that missed it, if you're not big milk drinkers, don't buy half gallon. You can even go smaller than a half gallon. You could buy basically just 1 cup of milk for $1. Can work really small with your recipes if you'd like. And then the 1 egg. Which is exactly what we had left. Yes. And I'm going to do this, since I really don't want to get in here, I'm going to crack it on the side. And then over. And I just know that I can do that, so I wasn't worried about more getting in. Then I'm going to make sure to wash my hands since I was just handling an egg carton. Go ahead, give our onions their last stir of the game. making sure our potatoes still have water in them, and they do. If your stovetop is clean, you can always throw the escapees back in. I'm just getting it off the edges, tops of the edges, off of my spoons, flatten it out so I don't see any of my pan in the middle here. Pan back on for the last bit of cooking there. Alright. So I'm beating the egg and the milk together as a separate step, and I basically just been getting my measurements. Measurements for everything else, and once again, what we're looking at is 2.5 cups all-purpose flour, a tablespoon of double-acting baking powder, half teaspoon of salt, a half cup or 1 stick of butter margarine, 8 ounces of cheese, half a cup minced onions, 1 egg, and 1 cup of milk. I'm going to go ahead and get this stirred up, mix up our aluminum with our flour, or the non-aluminum baking powder. And then this, I can't wait. I'm going to be looking back, watching me making biscuits like this. I'm going to be like, I have learned so much since my 3rd time making biscuits. Let me show you the way, the biscuit way. Let me show you how to mix that in seconds. Okay. So, we might have to be called back. So the next step is we'll be mashing these potatoes. I turn the onions down very low because the kitchen timer is about to be cooking for the remaining time they need. And I accidentally just turned my oven off. 425 degrees. Alright. And so, and then I have heard mixed, I thought I turned you off. I've heard mixed theories about greasing or not greasing the baking sheet. I'm going to go ahead and give it the littlest bit of greasing. Trying to think of the best way to do this. This is just me dicking around right now. Don't mind me, folks. Just grabbed a little bit of a piece of wax paper. I was like, I really don't want to do this halfway. If we want to grease it, we'll go all the way with the greasing. There we go, that's how you grease it. Okay. Now this is the part that scares me. So they say to scissor knife it. Alright, this is where we find out if I'm actually going to be able to make biscuits or not. That's right. Okay, so the onion real quick. This is what I'm talking about. With the food processor. Instead of having to just straight up mince. That was. It's almost a puree that I mixed, but hey, it's going in the biscuits. It's going to be great. Alright, so that's ready. And then the cheese. The cheese is last step. Oh yeah, I was really excited about getting the cheese. Let's see, 8 ounces. 8 ounces of cheese. Okay. So we have all that ready. Okay. So I'm going to try, just attempt, to not get my hands super messy. I don't think that's going to work very well though. We're going to try though. I'm going to try to just get this crumbly consistency. So you don't want to melt the butter, because put it in the butter. That's how you're going to get the crumbly consistency. And boy oh boy, am I actually happy that I got the fan going there, because cooking over an oven that's 425 degrees, whew, almost reminds me of a work kitchen. And I have these on super low, so they're just cooking down. They're just getting softer. Not browning, nothing like that. Sure. I checked in on the chat here for a second. Yeah, I'm trying not to make a big old mess here. And also, since I'm using the metal, I'm not going to be melting the butter with my with my hands as quickly. So hopefully this will help me get that consistency that we're looking for. It's really about getting the butter in the little tiny balls instead of like the big stuff. And then what I am excited about is that ever since Christmas I've been thinking about getting a mixer. I was like, I do want to take that step, but I'm not in a rush because there's plenty of things I want to cook before hitting the mixer. The mixer should be like the next step. Like I was like, no, I already was like happy that we weren't using mixers because I wanted to keep it more like what everyone has for home cooking, like what most people have. Not everyone has, you know, the $300 kitchen appliance like that. So I've been waiting. But I bet this step will get really easy with the mixer. But I don't know, maybe it's better to put the love in it. So that is starting to look pretty good actually. I don't see any big old clumps. Alright, now I gotta stir in the cheese and onions. Goodness, come on. There we go. 2 cups of cheese. Okay. Get that all stirred in together. Alright, and the last step. We'll be adding the milk and the egg. It's actually been rather successful not having to use my hands. Oh, you should have seen the first time I tried doing this. Whew. Those how those grandmas have the big arms that can go pow 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 to lay the magic on you. This is where they get that. The biscuit making. All right, that's looking pretty good. Dangerously close to the computer. Oh, look at this wonderful tea that we made so long ago. All right, let's make sure this oven's not smoking on me anymore. Oh my goodness. I now know what it is. And it was when some fish got cooked in there. I'm gonna have to keep my eye out on that guy. Okay. Whoops. And we're now gonna give our potatoes a little bit of a stir here. Finally, and then we'll finish working on the soup as soon as we get this into the oven. So now it's talking about 1 tablespoon dollops, about 1 inch apart from each other. So I'm just taking 2 forks here, and it's important not to have them more spaced out than that, because the biscuits are going to grow into each other and then they'll grow up. So you'll get flat biscuits if you don't have them close to one another. I do know that much about biscuits. Other than that, completely lost. It says it makes about 18 biscuits. And we followed the instructions to this again to the T. Yay, look at us, go us! Following the instructions. And we did go ahead and grease that pan. That way, you guys will be able to duplicate the results. Though I had no recipe written down this time, so there's that. There is that happened. I think I was griping on myself. I just really want to be able to give everyone an ingredients list that this is what we'll be working on the show, and I just have not gotten my life together enough to be able to do that. That little simple thing. I really liked it when I just totally had Fridays off. Completely had Fridays off. Totally, man. Sorry. Just had Fridays off, and I just had the whole day to really get ready for the show. Now right after this, I gotta go to work. The work's been good. It's a nice little graveyard shift. All by my lonesome. It's a little bit heavier than a tablespoon there, come on. Ended up basically going back for it anyway. Oh no. Oh, It is getting warm in here. Whew. I'm just excited. I got all quiet because I'm like, oh my goodness, it actually looks like real biscuits this time. Cheddar and onion biscuits too, out of all things. I'm like, oh man, if we get it right now, I'm going to be super happy. This will make up for all the other times that I didn't do biscuits right. Going for a little bit bigger on the end here because I got a lot more than I wanted left over. Almost there, folks. I hope that fan's not too loud in the background there. It's helping keeping me nice and cool. Thank you all so much for coming out to view the show live tonight. Alright, and we basically got it covered. Sweet. We'll get these right into the oven, and this right into the sink. Alright, let's see, does it say... Yeesh. "15 minutes. And it looks like having it on a 1, I still managed to brown my onions a little bit, which is not the end of the world. It's a very nice brown, definitely not burnt at all. Definitely nice and soft, long cooked onions. This is definitely going to help you out of the seasonal depression. Seasonal depression was actually one of those things I wanted to talk about a little bit, because we're coming back into the summer months and people are going to start feeling, or I guess spring, we're coming into this, in the spring, people are going to start, you know, coming out of their snappy, not the snappy moods, but just like the downtrodden winter mood. It's a real thing. And I didn't want to get into these times. I didn't want to be talking about seasonal depression in the summer and no one's feeling it. I was like, yeah, right now when we're really in it, we should like really talk about getting good food into you. Getting those vitamin C's, just getting good food into you. and just taking it well and easy during the winter months. Kind of coming back into tune with nature. Slow down a little bit. Alright, let's finish cooking up this creamy onion soup. Alright, so I'm going to mash these up. My handy dandy avocado masher, not a potato masher, it's an avocado masher. And just be careful, I like giving it a little bit of a twist. And there should be plenty of liquid still left in here. And I used a Yukon Gold potato. It's a nice starchy potato, and it's really going to break down really well. It's not going to keep its potato shape. We're getting a nice, it's turning into a nice cream here. Really want to make sure to just get it broken down. No large chunks here for me today, thank you very much. Alright, and then for the cream. For the cream, I'm actually, we're making a last minute emergency adjustment. We're adding a little bit of sugar. And that tablespoon or two, we're going to use almond milk. I know what I was talking about in the other recipes where I'll use traditional milk first. I'll put this back on the heat too. This is one of those recipes where I can imagine the creaminess with the milk in this recipe. I'm going to go ahead and just sweeten it up a little bit with a little sugar and the almond milk there. This is the liquid I'm going to be using to get it creamy. And for this, just know that you can always add, but you can never take away. And I'll be using the almond milk for the rest of my loosening it up instead of water. And that'll be the 4 to 6 tablespoons of cream that you can work with. And now I'm going to go ahead and add in the onion. You get every last bit. It's either going into your stomach or into the garbage. That'll be, I keep on using the potato masher, that'll turn into a mess real quick. Now I'm going to stir in the onions. I'm going to put this back down to like a 1 or 2. And now, that I have the onions in, I'm adding the last little bit milk to get the creaminess that I'm looking for. And so the look of this, if I didn't brown the onions, it would look more like a creamy soup. You can kind of see, I'll get it closer for you folks, but you can already see the brownness of the onions has caused you can see it. Long story short of it. Alright, that's all the milk I'm going to be adding to that. And I'm just going to take a look at the biscuits real quick. Oh man, we might have actually done it, folks. Really trying to get this a good square here. And it's just still a little too thick, so I know I said that I was only going to be using the almond milk. But we did let those potatoes sit on the stove top for quite a while, so just getting it a little bit looser again. It's just a little bit too thick. And when it's thick like that, you really gotta do these little small swirls to help really break up any big parts of the soup. Even just the faintest bit more. So I added about a half cup more of water overall, close to the 6 tablespoons. Salt, pepper to taste. And let's see if I have that nutmeg. I think nutmeg is one of those ones that I don't have anymore. Yes, I have cinnamon. I'm going to go ahead with a little bit of coriander. Not too much. And then the salt and pepper. There's this TV show called Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they have this guy named Boyle, and they're in a police station, but this is outside that setting. It's a police officer talking to his commander, and he's showing his commander how to cook, and the commander pours the salt directly in, and he goes, "No, you never salt that way." And this is the funniest thing I've seen. Boyle got to me with that one. I was like, I hear you, Boyle. Okay, we only have about 5 minutes. We just finished up the soup, and we're just tidying up now. Getting everything put away. Really gotta take care of this garbage over here. Alright, and a little wishy-washy of the hands. Then we'll clean up our counters. Get everything in the dishwasher. I can prove to you guys that you can have a clean kitchen and dinner done at the same time, and we are going to have biscuits. It's going to be great. Very excited. Can't wait. Those biscuits did make a bit of a mess. But we're almost there. Whew. Almost a little time for a little tea time. And we'll get our counters and we'll get a sweep in. I've been keeping an eye on these biscuits almost the entire time. Oh boy, we did it. 7:52. Look at that. Wrapping up right time again. Oh, and then we're going to do something totally different too. For our little fruit side that we're going to try today. Alright, folks. If you can give me just a quick minute to get this stuff cleaned up, and I'll be right with you. We only got 2 minutes to get those biscuits out. And the stuff that I'm just rinsing out here are stuff like the measuring cups, the wooden spoons, taking advantage that I had to have the bowl filled up all the way. And then also my food processor equipment. Which I'm desperately looking for the blade right now. Basically have it. Alright, let's take a look at the biscuits. I'm scared. I want like 1 more minute. Almost, but I don't know if I do or not. Ah, the biscuits. Ah. Every time! I do it to myself every time. I really wanted to get a good look though. Okay, I think they're done. Woo! We finally made biscuits on the show. 3rd time. The charm. We did it. And do we get the fire alarm? Do we get the fire alarm? Looks like a no. Whew, okay. Now we just have to see what the underside of this looks like. Oh, look at that. Nice and brown, not burnt. Okay. We're coming up to the plating. So a dish like this is where having an off-white dish can help you out a lot. And then I don't think I actually really need a full plate. for this meal actually either. I think it okay. Go ahead and turn off the heat of the soup. Actually, gotta make this look good, right? Because I was thinking about like what direction do I want the show to go into, and I was like, well, gosh, the direction that I would really want the show to go into is to actually have people start telling me like, oh, hey, I made this. That will be my satisfaction, is knowing that I actually got people into the kitchen. Some of these are coming up more easy than others. They almost now I'm wondering about the biscuit. Overall, I feel like they could have gone a minute longer. There was just one or two over here that are a little bit more on the doughy side, which kind of tipped me off to that. But let's get finished with the rest of the plating here. They are, however, delicious and cheesy though. And this fruit here, you see. Gotta dump these out all the way, otherwise you'll get all the pineapple. They put the pineapple on the bottom. So if you just peel off the top on that, you'll eventually just be left with all this pineapple, which isn't like the worst thing in the world. But so I'm going to give it a little stir, and then, you know, this is perfectly fine to have this out to serve, and then I would just right, and I had that just to stir, just that extra bowl right there. And then what I'm going to do, do you see me back here? I harvested a little bit of mint. I'm going to take these big leaves here. And then this stuff right here, these sprigs, is delicate enough that we're going to use that whole. And then on the bigger stuff here, where this is too big, just the leaf. Just the leaf. Then another sprig. We're just going to tear this. And then I'm really going to get a dose of mint, but I'm just going to throw that. Contrast. There you have it, folks. Let's see what that looks like up on the big screen here. Okay, so what we have today is some cheese and onion biscuits here. We have the creamy onion soup, and that is potatoes cooked down. We use Yukon Gold potatoes to cook it down. Had a nice slow cook on some yellow onions too. White onions would work as well. And then over here, where that color is that's just a dolled up canned fruit with some home mint on top of it. And I didn't know you could put mint and vegetables, or excuse me, mint and fruit together, so I'm really interested to give this a little try on camera here. The mint and the fruit is such a fun flavor. It's such a fun, sweet flavor that it's almost becomes savory. It's wonderful. That's a great little fruit salad right there. Now, the big question is, I guess we still need to test the soup. My big question is how the biscuits and the soup go together. So here we go. So we use the coriander, I believe is how you say it, seasoning. Definitely can taste that. It makes me miss basil, so that I definitely use the nutmeg for this recipe. The nutmeg is the right way to bring out the right creaminess. Nope. Personally, I think you could just use a little bit more salt. Salt to taste, fix it up. But this is what I really wanted to know. Well, for our first time, and to finally get our biscuits closer than ever, as close as they can be fluffier, about a minute more I would say tops. But we were playing a dangerous game because you could see how brown it is on the bottom. And then the combination of the cheesy onion with the creamy soup. It's well, overall, I'm sure this is going to make me feel great. The onion we were talking about seasonal depression a little bit. We didn't get to talk too much about it, but this is definitely one of those meals that will definitely warm you up on a cold day. And the fruit right here too. It's just making sure you're getting the nutrients that you need. You know, sometimes when you're not feeling well, you know, you really gotta, you gotta, when you're not feeling well, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to have a good meal, because your body's is telling you that there's things wrong. You know, and if you're hungry, that's a huge problem for the body. The body is going to make that your number one priority. It's getting the good food so your brain can fire correctly, so your body can take care of itself. So being able to cook food is a really important skill to be able to put the food together, because, you know, I'm going to make fun of myself here, is that my favorite part about this whole dish together is the thing that came out of the can, you know, and that was growing right there. Those two just made my favorite part of this meal. But what I do really like about this onion recipe is those 3 ingredients. Well, 4 if you count the water, which they don't. So 3 ingredients. It was butter, it was onions, and potatoes. And then biscuits are also just, you know, it's a bread, and it doesn't require a mixer, and is again very cheap to make. A little bit time consuming, and boy oh boy do I have a lot of cheese biscuits that I really think about it. That's okay. These are going to go great. Definitely make some more soups this week. You know, I gotta say, that's a lot of food for how cheap the ingredients were. I think again, this is like, this could easily, like when the kids, they just eat snack after snack after snack, let them go ham on the biscuits, you know. Maybe like, it would be nice to have like, I don't know, I would say for another meal, having like 3 biscuits is all I'd need for as leftovers. 2 biscuits a person too. The biscuits are kind of filling, you know. They really are actually kind of filling. I'm getting full off of this. I'm only taking a couple bites. I really like adding a little bit of mint fruit salad at the end there too. I really like that combination with the onion. It worked out really well. Ooh. Well, that's another completed show, guys. We did it. I'll be coming up on 25 episodes here soon, which will be cool. We haven't repeated any recipes yet, but I'm starting to feel like covering some of the ones that we covered before. I think it's about time to make another tomato basil. But I think what I should do is, before I repeat a recipe on air, is that I should really just, it'll make it easy for me. I'll just plan the recipes that I've already made on the show. I'll make sure to revisit some of these recipes off camera to see if I can really help bring in some good improvements to it. And then everything is also getting put up on to a YouTube channel, so we have a growing library of older shows. For those that are new to Twitch, how this setup works is that it will keep all my videos up to 2 weeks, or excuse me, up to 2 weeks, and then after that point it will start removing them unless I add up in highlights. I'm still I really like just being able to cook live and just have the steps in and talk with people. But I am looking into more streamlining the cooking part of it. Whew! I can't wait to have a little bit of a sit down. So we started a little late. We'll go a little bit late today. We're wrapping up right here about 8:12 Mountain Time. Thank you so much, everybody, for putting your energy into people, to coming out here on a Friday night, hanging out, just making some good food. Really appreciate you all that dropped down into the chat, and we'll see you next week. Thank you so much. That's not the button I wanted to hit. This is the button.